Good afternoon, everybody. At this time, we'll call to order the Anvil County Board of Commissioners informal work session for November 27, 2018. It's 1:30. And we don't have a work session scheduled for today. We don't have any department updates, but we do have a preliminary consent agenda. And I am wondering if everyone has had a chance to look at all of the items on there, and if you have any questions. Specifically, Silas is here if you have any HHS questions.
Madam Chair, I looked at all of them very specifically. I would request that item number, the first time I come across, item number 2, be removed for consideration to our Thursday meeting, please.
Okay.
And then I do have several questions on all the others, but I can get those with Silas. They're a general type contract stuff questions, so I don't have problems on these specifically, so
Okay.
I'll bring those up at a further time.
Now might be a good
No,
time.
because I have so many different ones that
You
it's
do?
just, yeah, so.
Okay.
The others can stay on the consent, those can stay on the consent agenda.
Okay. So we have, the only other thing I wanted to, and I had, where are we? Yeah, that's it. So everybody's good with everything on the consent
Yeah,
agenda?
that number 14, that lot line adjustment, that's just because of those offices.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
The lot lines are being adjusted, and on that point, it's 621 Northeast Davis, not 615. So we'll correct that on the formal agenda for Thursday.
And the sheriff and the district attorney are here also, in case there are questions about their items.
Anybody have any questions about the sheriff's budget, position authority, and
Sheriff, remind me on the additional 2.0 FTE, those are additional positions, correct?
Yeah, it'd be to accommodate the increase in
Because
the
of-
contract for the city of Annandale.
Sidney, okay. Only question I had. And as far as the district attorney's request, Brad and I had a chance to discuss that quite thoroughly, and I'm in total support for his request.
okay, everybody, Commissioner Perizich?
And Commissioner, for item number 2, did you have questions for Silas on that item?
I think I do have some questions. It's really the reason I want to discuss it open meeting is I'm concerned with, I brought up previous time about when we purchased both the previous building, we signed the contract, and I was very concerned that we had, that the cost would be more than we thought it was, and let me get to my notes here. And looking at the attachment from Integrity Building, I am a little concerned that we started out with an original remodeling cost of $892,000, and since that time, we've done 2 agreements that add another let me get down here, we've added another $164,000, almost $165,000 in change orders, which brings it up to the cost we know of so far, not counting the cost of the building, over almost $1 million in remodeling. And I'm very concerned about we continue to spend, we get it, we look at a building, we see how much the building costs, and then we seem to continue to do a change order after change order before you know it. What I'd really be interested, Silas, what you can maybe help me out on that one, is what the cost with the purchase of the building and the remodeling. I'd really be interested to know what the cost per square foot, what we will have after all the remodeling and the purchase of the building, what the cost per square foot will be. Because I like to compare it to new construction and other things.
I'll answer that last, but I can't answer that. I just need a calculator. So a little bit of context, and as a reminder for the board, the original invitation to bid on this project, when we released it, we had a single bidder that was not a local contractor and bid the project at $1.3 million. That was per load
Right.
construction. And we delayed our invitation bid. We put it back out, I think maybe 4 or 5 months after that, and then had this second bidding process where we selected Integrity
Right.
to do the work. And then within the actual original contracting and time frame to get the project up and running, we had a delay
11
that
months.
was of about 11 months that was not of our own creation. It had to do with the nonprofit partner who's a close ally of ours that we contract services with within community services, and that was linked to a remodel that was directly across the board across the street here, which was delayed significantly and over budget significantly. So within that time period, a portion of the increased cost is linked to the improved economy and the fact that
Right, I got
materials went up. And it's actually just a minority of the change. Most of the changes, there were 3 change orders prior to this, and I brought all 3 just because I thought it might come up. But the first, as a reminder, was a change order that essentially allowed us to put an ADA accessible bathroom into a leased space that we own and we leased to Mr. Beerley. And we did that because it was really going to create a more favorable space for the actual remodel that we were doing, which we had not included in the ITB originally. And I think that is design process, not necessarily contractor issue per se that we would put on the contractor or myself as overall project manager, some sort of oversight. I mean, it's a big project. We hadn't seen the opportunity for the ADA bathroom. We added it in. That was the first change order. That was a $21,000 increase. The second change order that came through was related to the sewer line laterals when we purchased what we call the Mercer tax lot. We went through that process with full board participation to acquire the adjacent tax lot, which has a common wall. It made sense in the overall business need of the facility and the proximity to our overall campus. We made the decision. Once we purchased it, the city required this additional lateral line sewer connection because they found ordinance that had not been properly followed years ago, and they held us to that. And instead of fighting it, we went along with the city's requirements, and we paid that lateral line hookup for the other tax lot that we didn't buy because we didn't want to put it on the dentist who owns the other third lot. There's a third lot there. So that was the change order number 2. That was for $46,000. The third change order that we did prior to the fourth one that's in front of the board was related to the parking lot and our decision to go ahead and repave the back parking lot. And it really came up to the best time to do that project. Hadn't been in the ITB. It was cracked and chipped. We went ahead and did the project. I talked to the board about why. Again, we have the budget authority. We were under the original $1.3 million that we'd done with the other contractor. It wasn't like we would have gotten a radically different invitation to bid outcome had we included that in the first scope. And we actually worked with Public Works and John to make sure that we went through and got the best pricing that we could. And when we actually involved Public Works in it, we got a better pricing overall per square foot on the repaving than had we just put it out to bid through our contractor with Integrity. So I felt pretty confident about those 3. And to bring us to the fourth, really the bulk of the change was the discount pricing of $33,000 because Bruce and Integrity was able to come under his estimate, and he actually applied those net savings on the overall contract of $33,000 in a few places that we had some unintended savings, and I appreciated that he was able to give those savings back to the county. The other 2 increases in this fourth change order are $26,000 roughly. That is the delay of 11 months, where we did have some materials coming in at higher pricing, and I think it would be right action to go ahead and pay at today's pricing as a result of those changes. And then the other $76,000 really were related to some things that we hadn't included in the original ITB, but were changed because of the Mercer acquisition largely. And the other one in there that we didn't include, and we knew it at the time, I talked with Shane at IT and I talked with Joe about it, was the low voltage security.
Right.
So that one I knew going in we hadn't included because we hadn't fully conceptualized how we wanted to do it. The rest of them, you can just go line by line, and they're either a very small, made sense to do at the time, or they were related to the acquisition of that Mercer property. So I feel pretty confident that, what we've got with the project overall quality, the value to the county, and the timeline once we actually got the building, we're actually a little bit ahead of time in terms of project completion, and we should be in there at the end of December, first week of January.
I'm not questioning that. I just say, as you know me, I have an issue when we keep leasing or purchasing buildings and put more money into than we originally thought we were going to do, much like we did with the Kirby Street building, to the point where we have money tied up in the buildings that to me, would be much better off going into one capital improvement plan and figuring out what we really need. So that's why I wanted to put off, but I do have one, maybe Silas, you can answer this question, one additional question on the change order. I don't think it's normal, and maybe it is for this contractor, that when they, the 11-month delay in the scope of the work that caused this, normally when I see the prices like the low voltage, where we did the 40 data drops for 15,520, normally that includes, the material and the labor. And when I see a specific line item on a bid for additional profit and overhead of $6,100, that concerns me why those aren't, whether you pay them or not, why they aren't built right into cost when he's charging us separately for additional profit and overhead. That concerns me a little bit, why that kind of line item is in there as listed as a line item. It's like he's making an additional $6,100, and when I add up all of the costs of what was in that work order on that phase of it anyway, and I look at that 61,996, I just have trouble justifying the additionals. It's almost $6,200 and just for his profit. But I assume he was making his profit from the contract itself and the work orders itself, and not actually adding on additional profit or overhead. But that's just my opinion. So, but anyway, those are I appreciate, Silas, all of your explanations, but I still want that moved to Thursday.
I also didn't answer your question about price per
Yeah,
square, but I
price per
came up
square.
with $233.
$2.33 per square foot.
That's the entire building.
And that's
the
considered
full
Class
cost
B,
of the
that's considered Class B
remodel.
building, I take it. I know it's not a Class A office building. I don't know if it's Class B.
I'm not an expert. in
Well, I know, because I'd like to
classification.
see compared to new construct, the only reason I want to know is compared to new construction, is that $1 lower than new construction? Is it 50 cents higher than new construction for that type of building, to make sure that we're not putting money into where we could have put more for the
Location was a
building?
big part of the reason we moved there, being in where it is located.
Well, and I understand.
In conjunction with the rest of the services that Health and Human Services.
Oh,
provides.
I don't disagree with that, Commissioner. My problem is I don't think we should continue to remodel and purchase and lease and new buildings downtown without knowing where we're gonna go in the future. And I'm against putting additional money into buildings here when we don't have any plan where we're gonna go in the future. But that's my hope.
Yeah,
And this building this is our future. I mean, we've already committed significant dollars, and what you're saying is you want to stop now and not continue to finish this building out so it is functional?
Oh, no, what I'm saying is 2 years ago when I was elected, I wanted to do a capital plan so we knew 5 years down the road where we'd be. We're 2 years down the road now, we put more money into more buildings, lease, rental and everything. And to me, from a capital plan, if anybody wants to think our future is in downtown, maybe it is. But I don't know that. I don't know what this continues to cost us. So that's why, no, I'm not necessarily saying that we should stop this project, but I just want it to be brought up at the point of view.
Well, I think at this point, I don't know if you could bring us up to speed, Ken, about, this was a project that you had been working on in terms of giving us the lay of the land for future capital projects. We've maybe not had a report out from Ken on this, but this is something that has been in the works for quite a while.
Digging up my notes here really quick. Just a reminder that as part of the 18-19 budget process, we did include in the capital plan doing a space analysis to look at our existing footprint, our existing infrastructure, and also identifying future needs, everything that we're talking about. Admittedly, at what point do we kick that off? It was something that was budgeted to occur this budget year, and it's on the plan. Joe and I have been talking about this and trying to figure out the launching point, but Joe's also trying to get caught up on the number of projects. The last analysis that was done was in 2010. There was another one that was done in 2004. So there's been some past analysis done, but of course we're definitely due for a new one. as far as next steps, one of the things that I was looking at doing, and that's why I'm going back to my notes to refresh my memory a little bit, is the next step is looking at, getting into probably January or February is coming and meeting with the board. To put some, parameters around the project, what we're looking at, whether, working with Christian and whether or not we need to do an RFP to find that consultant or not. So that's kind of really quick where we're at. We just haven't been able to get to that project yet, but it is on the list, and thank you for.
Yeah, I think, Ken, you bring up a very good point. I know you've given me a lot of information I've needed so far, and I've got a lot of information from the assessor. I think this plan also has to include not just what we own, what we're putting into remodeling, but what we lease, what we rent, what's the buildings we own, how much we're losing off the tax rolls because we're not collecting taxes. Because I think myself personally, just the initial stuff that you gave me and what the assessor gave me, by staying in a lot of the buildings down here, we're costing us a lot of money. But that's just my own opinion. So, and I know we'll probably bring this up Thursday, that I'm not going to say I'm going to vote for it or against it, but that's why I want to move till Thursday. So.
Yeah, because the one thing that I'd also add is because we also really need to look at the courthouse, and the one thing that I've missed is we've constantly, we're hearing from the courts as well that they're looking at expanding, they're looking for an additional courtroom, so there's also those needs, across the street, I kind of throw back to when I first started with the county, most of this block, if not all of this block, was all in the courthouse at that time. And so with the expanding needs from the courts and then with the expanding needs from the county itself, it's grown from there. And, and that, I can't remember which plan, it might have been the 04 plan that contributed to the direction for the acquisition of the buildings on this block in particular to start transitioning, to free up more space for the courts, which now,
and we might as well. We may turn out we stay downtown.
Right.
But until we have that analysis done, I'm not going to bet one way or another.
Well, I think it would behoove us to take a look at the fact that the people that we serve, in terms of transportation and in terms of where the people that we serve are likely to find the most convenient access to services, is right downtown in the core area. And since they all, if you take a look at where Lutheran is, where Broken Hope is, where all of these places that have a sort of a nexus for our population with the greatest need, it is in the downtown area, as is access to county offices. And the other thing we have to look at is, I like to look back on what past county financial officers have done, and that is a shrewd and, I believe, fiscally responsible approach to county offices and services and buildings is by not going out for a bond levy to ask people to support an enormous financial burden when we can. Basically, this makes us more nimble. It lets us contract and expand according to what our needs are, and also we know that we have a recession, another downturn coming according to the state economist in starting 19 or 20. So we know if we're going to have a contraction, for us to think in terms of building a monolith, building a big building that we're going to have to finance that we might not be able to fill should there be a contraction. I know that Silas's programs are at the behest of what the state decides to give us. Should some of these funds be retracted or contracted in some way, we have to be able to be nimble enough to say we've got a 3-year lease or a 5-year lease. We haven't committed to an enormous building. If you look at what Clackamas County not only spent, but the size of what they have, and when they need it, it was great, but now they've got an enormous inventory of real estate that they have to support. So I think that it has been a fiscally responsible approach where we can say, it's kind of like saying, do you build an addition to your house when your mother-in-law is living with you, when it might make more sense to fix up the spare bedroom because we don't know how long she's going to be with us. So I just think in terms of how we treat our citizens and what we ask them to pay for, this is the more nimble and flexible approach. So, but I think we should talk about this on Thursday.
I think I appreciate your comments, Madam Chair. I kind of agree. I think it's for our taxpayers who are asked to buy all these buildings and asked to rent these buildings and lease these buildings without knowing if we're doing the right thing. Has anybody ever asked a taxpayer if they would support a bond? We don't ask them, we don't know. So I'm just that until we do some kind of a study, I just have trouble with personally putting money into it. But I appreciate your comments. So.
And I think
I do
Ken-
want to clarify
Yeah.
that every penny that we have spent on any capital acquisition of property in the 8.5 years that I've been the director has been with state, federal, other funds. We have not used any county general funds. So there's no county general fund going into this project either. So we're talking about statutorily restricted healthcare dollars that go for the financing of the services we provide, and in this case, the office space to do so. Currently, we have about 15,000 square feet that we do have out in leased space for office space. That's between Newbury and McMinnville, and we are, those Christians helped me construct language that does give us the ability to terminate those contracts should we lose grant funding. But the rest of our properties that are proper office space right here in downtown McMinnville, we have, either because we've owned them for a long time or we've looked at it, it strategically fits with our business need to meet the community need and the customers where they're at. In this case, the access points have been right downtown, and that's why this project, we started it 2 years ago for all those reasons with the private, the publicly funded dollars that come from out of county. Now, they're all tax
They're all
dollars,
taxpayers' dollars.
but they aren't our county general fund. And so
That's
I just
correct.
want, as you all consider your policy options going forward, which I absolutely support us having the consultation project and us having a professional come in and look at all of these different levers and a design for the future. Some of that hasn't been happening at the same time that we've had growth within serving the vulnerable populations we serve. And as those funds have come in and the opportunity and the obligation to serve them, we've had to make some of these business moves. So to me, this is completing a project
Yeah, and,
that we
you know,
started 2 years ago.
Well, and I would also
Yeah.
add that that building has always been in the county sites.
Yeah, just because of proximity.
Correct.
Yeah, and I personally believe, and I appreciate, and this doesn't have a thing to do with the programs we run and what we do for us. It doesn't have a thing to do with our program. It's just that I just don't believe it's wise to continue renting and leasing high-value property and buying high cost property in downtown McMinnville. That's just me. So.
So where would you suggest that we build a big building?
Who says we're building a big building? You ever mention me say big building? I never said big building. Have we ever explored a option with the city of McMinnville who was also looking at replacing a lot of space and doing one governmental center? Have we ever explored that option? No. Have we looked at where we could put a building? No. Who says it? I mean, I can't tell you if that building is 100,000 square feet or 200,000 square feet because we've never done that study. I'm not saying a big monolith of a building, but we don't know. So if you don't know, how can you not say that?
But I'm just thinking in terms of the convenience of the populations that we serve, just as a for instance. Throw out a for instance of where we might
Okay.
look for that.
I think we could have easily looked in with the population we serve with our transit system. There's several places around town we could have looked at. We could have looked at where right now we have it leased out for the go-kart track. We could have looked at that area at the fairgrounds, which we already own the property, but we lease it for the go-kart track. We could have looked at something like Willamette ESD property where the whole back half of the property is vacant and it's already got a building sitting on that property. I mean, there's all sorts of places. And Mary, do I know? No, I don't. But that's what a study tells you. And without doing the study, we don't know. That's why I'm so much for the study. But anyway, I don't want to be, because I think your points are good, Stan's points are all good. I think they're all good points. And, but I just have problems supporting continuing spending money on it.
I can just see the city of McMinnville with the county and city also vacated all the properties that the city and county owns in downtown core. The downtown core would not exist. And a lot of the activity in downtown is the result of the services and the buildings that are here that service city and county public services. So I think you have to be careful when you talk about all those city buildings and the county buildings and all of a sudden we're going to vacate and move them out of the core of downtown. What do you want to do to McMinnville?
Well, I can tell you the city council and the mayor and the city manager are having these same conversations. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's
To be-
it, so.
to be continued.
To be continued. Thanks for the conversation and discussion, thanks,
Thank
Silas.
you. Thank you, Silas. All right, so, so that will take care of, so we have no more items, we're just gonna take off 2, and, we're just gonna take item 2 off?
Yes.
Just
Is that it?
item two,
That was
item
the
two,
only
that was
one.
it.
Okay, and then we'll go on for that. Silas, thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thanks, Silas.
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
thanks for having me.
And then, anybody else who wants to leave at this point, thank you for being here. You can stay.
Thank you.
November's almost over, Sheriff.
almost over.
Don't shave it off. Gonna be
Leave
a
it on.
cold winter.
Brad,
One
yeah, I
more.
guess you could shave yours off.
Are we
Yeah.
saving in
Thank you.
December?
I'll,
You do have one there, don't you?
I'm gonna just, I'll just report, I've been married 28 years and my wife has never seen me without one. So if I start it now, it could end up a whole different relationship.
That's right.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So, non-consent agenda items or other topics for discussion. Let's see, what do we have? A couple of things I wanted to bring up. I was hoping that we could get, all right, I'll get to that during update. But what I was hoping that we could get to is, back in May, when we had that public hearing on the trail, Mr. Kenwright had offered to handle the maintenance in perpetuity for the trail when we talked about the ongoing cost of it. I like to think of it as sort of the Yamhill Trail and a timeshare. You never know what it's going to cost, and you're paying for it even after you're dead. But that being said, we never did get an MOU. We never did get any agreement, and I know that you have a relationship.
Madam Chair, I will have that for you next week.
Awesome. Just so we have something to work with.
That's fine. It's just a memorandum of understanding that he and his wife have agreed in perpetuity to take care of the maintenance of the 3 miles from Carlton to Yamhill.
Okay.
That was the statement he made at the hearing.
All right, and then we also need to take a look at what that entails. What does maintenance mean? So I don't know. if
According to
Kristen-
all of the studies that we've done nationwide on trail maintenance, it comes out to between $1,200 and $1,500 per mile per year is what maintenance has averaged on existing Rails to Trails projects.
And that's about what Brett told me when he was here, when we rent $1,200 to $1,500
Yeah.
a mile per year, so.
We've done significant reviews of other trail projects, so that's,
That's a good-
and that's what
good
he's
plan.
committing to is roughly about $4,000 a year for that 3 miles.
So then would we also put into that MOU who would be actually doing the maintenance? Would that be something that we're paying another entity to do?
I think that still has yet to be discussed.
See,
That's a separate, really, probably a
part
separate issue.
part
Getting their
of what that,
commitment is the
see,
first
and
issue.
that's based on actually hiring it out, that 12 to 1,500 miles, that's hiring it out. Here, we have the option of utilizing, when we do have prisoner work parties, utilizing that, when Brett was using those for a variety of different aspects. So that could have reduced that, whether we continue that kind of program. The Yamhill West Sider Trail people have volunteered to provide maintenance services on there. So there's a variety of different things that will drive the actual cost down on that, and putting aside money at the same time for eventually that pavement, approximately every 10 years, you're probably going to want to do a resurfacing or something. So you're going to start setting money aside for that. But the basic maintenance, he has guaranteed in perpetuity for that 3-mile stretch.
Okay. Let's see. So we, at the beginning of the year, we all set, as commissioners, we all set personal goals for ourselves and for the work we wanted to do throughout the year. The year is almost coming to a close, and I just wanted to check in with everybody in terms of the goals that you stated for yourself at the beginning of the year and the accomplishments. So Commissioner Olson, I'll start with you.
Well, my goals, I think I would have liked to make more progress than I did, but I think learning, my goals for the first year were probably pretty lofty, and learning what I've learned and getting more arrangements, I feel satisfied that I've learned what I've learned and I've met the goals that I needed to meet
And what were
personally.
those goals?
Well, one of them was to understand more about county finance and investment, investment and how we invest and where we get our interest from, the different investment policies. And so that was one of my goals. And another goal that I had personally was to try to bring the assessors, area taxation area more out of some of the dark ages, with the hope that as we go on, since like any other area, it's hard to pay for to fill good appraiser 1 and appraiser 2 positions, that hopefully some of the technology we could put in place would alleviate having to put on additional staff, and yet give us the ability to better assess all of our property on a more regular basis, since we have some rural properties that hadn't been assessed in over 20 years, and I've been very pleased with that. So those are my really 2 main ones. So.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan?
I have a variety of goals. Economic development was one, and as you're aware, we did set about to define how we're going to approach that, and did get Sedcor on board, and that just came from a meeting in Newburgh on the Economic Development Advisory Committee that has been structured, and will also be a piece of that committee will be doing the grant reviews and bringing recommendations to this board for approval. That's something we were working on. Newburgh Dundee bypass is something I've been very heavily involved in. In fact, just had another meeting 2 weeks ago with Tammy Bainey down in with Eugene, making her aware that she'll still see my smiling face at OTC meetings, because that needs, I really want her to be aware of how critical that is to economic development for Yamhill County. So continuing to press on that issue. We have come a long way, but we've got some giant steps. We've got it down to 152 million, so we're working, we're getting closer. That was the Amhalis West Sider Trail that you're so excited to get done, Commissioner.
Yeah, she's mad because it isn't in yet.
It's approximately the 20th of this month. We'll get a ruling from LULA on our findings, and I feel very confident that there might be 1 or 2 small things, adjustments they'll want us to make, but for the most part, I think our findings are going to come through, and will give us the green light then to start moving forward with the bridge work out there at the other end, and I can start pushing real hard with, again, ODOT with Jenna, because the Safe Routes to Schools piece, from where it terminates at 240, the 3-mile stretch, getting from there down to the school will require some kind of a pathway. And in talking with Jenna at the Department of Transportation, they have money that we could get to develop something from that trail down to the school. So we'll be working on that, but that's a piece of the overall trail. Workforce development is something I've been very interested in, because again, economic development is tied so closely to transportation. Having a ready workforce, if we can convince somebody to bring their business here, we have to have a workforce here for them. In that vein, I served this past couple of years as the chair of the joint, the Jobs Council with Workforce Partnership, and we've developed a lot of good strategies. When we got Kim in there, Kim Parker, who currently is our executive director, she has really brought some focus to our workforce development. And last year, Yamhill County was the recipient of 4 different grants to individual businesses to integrate training into their workforce. And we have another round that we just put out the RFP on, so people can start requesting opportunity. And those are $12,000–$15,000 grants to help in training projects within their companies. So we're moving forward with that. And let's see. house. The old veterans, absolutely. We are, in fact, Mitch and I were talking last week, or 2 weeks ago, that's been 2 weeks already. It's 2 weeks. But because we do have a new director, state director, and Mitch is going to continue his position as director of benefits. So I've been working with him to continue. I want to get a closer alliance with Jerry out here and what we're doing here in Yamhill County. But we've gotten a lot of our veterans signed up, getting benefits, because Jerry has been really good about the reach out on that area. We have, our veterans are shrinking because our World War II and Vietnam veterans are unfortunately no longer with us, but we still have 32 World War II veterans in Yamhill County. And in fact, one of them was just in the concert on Veterans Sunday at the Veterans Day concert. One of our horn players is a World War II veteran, and I was giving him a bad time because he came walking in his Navy uniform, and I said, "You should show off."
You fit
Yeah,
in that.
because I was in Vietnam, and my uniform won't fit me anymore.
Mhm.
And so he took me around the corner, he pointed to this lady, and he said, "See her? That's my wife, and she's a seamstress." So, he told me his secret. So, but we do have a very strong veterans program here. We've got, like I say, over 9,000 veterans in Yamhill County. And what people fail to recognize is the economic driver that getting our veterans their benefits is to the county. Last year, 2017, I don't have any numbers for 2018 yet. 2017, $59 million came into Yamhill County because of veteran benefits. All levels of veteran benefits, but that's a big number. And so the more we can do to get the benefits that they've earned to them, the better off the county as a whole is, but especially our veterans. And of course, the homeless issue with veterans is considerable. The number of veterans that end up in our justice system is deplorable, but we have some really good services being brought forward here. So anyway, got a couple of things at least started that I was hoping to get done this year.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, I'm just happy to say that today we had the kickoff for our DHS overhaul project, where we're hoping to put together a hybrid of city-county services. We've got the dream team, all of our nonprofits and all of the people who are invested in this, as well as our three ladies that we've hired, and we've begun the process. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read Sunday's Oregonian. When people say it's not that bad, I say you're right, it's worse. And we're having, kids dying that there's no reporting on. I found out that there are, the average rate of psychiatric medication for kids in foster care is almost 5 times higher than it is in the general population. So I'm trying to get numbers on the number of kids in our county who have been put on a number of psychiatric drugs. The average number is 4 or 5. I cannot get that information. We were being told it doesn't exist. I have a hard time believing that, but our new dream team says that they're going to get that information. I've issued a 5-page request for information from DHS on all of the data about our kids, and it's been largely ignored. So I
Kind of like
think
DEQ, huh?
kind of like, well, way worse than that. And so hopefully we're going to see with this new project that they know we mean business and that we're here to fix it for our kids. So I'm happy to see that that happened. I'm grateful for the support. Thank you guys, and thank you to Silas and everybody else in the community. And we're going to be having community meetings all around the county so that anybody who's involved with foster care will get a chance to weigh in. Also want to say that our emergency alert system, which is something I've been hoping we could get, finally there has been a bigger push to get people to sign up for it. and I think it's going to become more and more important as time goes by. Also, with our foreclosed properties, we just had one that we finished inking the deal on the Lafayette property for a housing authority, and we've got a number of other properties housing authority is looking at that we have on our rolls. We're working with a number of other, we've got some people that might actually wind up getting their homes back.
Correct.
But the remainder of them, we're working with Massey and the Housing Authority to see that we can get these into Housing Authority so they can get them out just for some low income housing. And also, I'm happy to report, have a bill that Representative Noble is sponsoring, which would allow us to have the opportunity to give back the equity in the homes for foreclosed properties. Whether or not that's going to fly, but I have my fingers crossed. And we also have a DHS bill, which would let everybody use our plan, our template, around the rest of the counties to clean up their child welfare system. Okay, I did want to mention that we were all, I think you all got the email from BNRG Renewables. They would like to do a payment in lieu of taxes. It's a solar company, and I wanted to know what you wanted to do since you did want to address the board. Just sort of a little bit of a backstory. Our assessor says it's never been done before. We've done that. We're basically, they give us a lump sum of $7,000 a year, and that would be an annual payment in lieu of property taxes for up to 20 years. Now, the legislature has provided for this to give us the authority to enter into this agreement. So we have to decide whether or not we want to do it. So my question to you, commissioners, is what is your appetite for putting this, for allowing this to go forward? Do we want to say, yes, he would like to come and talk to us, maybe we could put it on, have him come on maybe the 11th or the 18th?
Next Tuesday would be the 11th.
So if he came and sort of pitched us on why this might be,
Oh,
Next
sorry.
Tuesday.
Sorry.
Yeah, 4.
You're right, thank you.
okay, we're just a little,
Too eager for Christmas, maybe?
No.
so,
Who's anxious to get to the 30th?
No.
sorry, Laura.
Just discombobulated about dates.
So is that something, I know you've had a chance to look at it, are you interested in even considering that? We've never done it before.
I would be interested only from the standpoint of finding out how the county can benefit, but again, not entering into anything that's gonna circumvent what we've already decided as far as putting solar arrays on 1, 2, 3, and 4 properties.
No, this is, they're already the ones that have been approved. This is to do a sort of another
Right,
payment for.
I just want to make sure that I understand, and that their understanding of what they're getting and our understanding are one and the same.
So.
That was my concern.
They're,
Commissioner.
but I think the two don't have anything to do with each other because they're already in play. What he's trying to say is, what we're proposing to you is instead of paying the property taxes for these particular
Right.
parcels, that we would then get a payment in lieu of that. So they're not, one has nothing to do with the other than the fee that we would get. So that's what we have to decide.
And I've asked Derek to take a look at the company's computations and give us some feedback. So what you could do is, if you want to hear from Mr. Connolly next week, in the meantime, we could have Derek put together some information for you that you could digest after you hear from Mr. Connolly.
I will be at the Informal next week, that's what I need to talk to you about, so 11th, I'd like to hear, I'd really
Or
like to hear.
you could have him come next Thursday, because you're
Because I'd like to see after Derek works up his numbers, I'd like to see what that difference. what
Okay.
that difference
So
is.
Thursday, I would suggest, because you're probably only going to have 3 meetings between now and the end of the year, and it has to be done by the end of the calendar year if you were going to approve it.
Well,
So,
that's the request he made.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't we have only until the end of the year?
For it to be effective the next
For the
tax
next
year.
Okay.
Right, and that's what he's asked, is the board consider
Correct.
this county. This did come before the board, well, a similar request was made by another solar operator several years ago. And the board at that time decided not to move forward with the program. But we'll pull those materials up as well if anyone wants to see that.
Okay. So do we want to maybe ask him him to come on the, would that be
14.
the 11th? No,
The
the,
Thursday would be the 6th.
Okay, so I have to have Janice at the doctor's support on the 6th.
We have a public hearing on the 6th.
I know.
and
I have to
one
be
this.
at
Larry's hearing this Thursday too.
How about the 11th then?
I think the
So we'll do that on the 11th? So we have some time.
So I was right after all.
Was that December 11th?
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for that. And, let's see. So, okay, we have nothing else there. Commissioner updates at this point.
Well, I have one thing, and I don't know if this should really fall under non-consent agenda or under commissioner updates, so I'll bring it up now. The commissioners have probably all heard about smart metering and what's going on in a lot of the counties that utilities are provided by investor-owned utilities as far as opt-out charges for if you opt out of a smart meter and the health problems with smart metering and with smart meters, there are interference. What I'd like to do is probably sometime in January is to be able to have one of our work sessions, have somebody come in either from CREA or somebody and actually do a presentation to the board on smart meter, because I know Josephine County now has something in court. Jackson County is looking how they're going to overturn theirs, because you get a smart meter by default, but what the OPUC put into the rules is that they put one in by default, but if you don't like the smart meter, you have to opt out, and it costs you like $400 and some just to opt out when you've never had a chance to opt in. So this is a rule that OPUC made with the smart meter. And so I'd like to get something maybe in January, just a work session for an hour and a half, or have somebody expert in the field come in and talk to us about smart metering.
And I think it's important to know, I know from personal experience, I tried to opt out, and it's the price per month is exorbitant to where they make it so that not only do they put one in without your approval, but then they require you, should you complain about it, to pay an exorbitant amount per month, which you didn't pay when there was no smart meter. So the health implications, some of the
Yeah,
concerns
that's a bad
about
thing.
sort of the big brother aspect of this, and all of that in terms of privacy issues.
Right.
But I think if we're going to have people come, we should have people come who are going to address the health implications, some of the data around that, and also the privacy implications. So we're going to get both sides of the story. Why we're being told it's okay,
That's a good idea.
and other people saying it's not okay. So I would love an opportunity for our people to be able to opt out without a significant fee.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
should be done at a formal session then.
With a hearing. Yeah,
Maybe we should just,
I'd love to have a hearing on
have a public, call for a public hearing on smart metering, and that way the opponents could show up, the proponents could show up, citizens could show up, so.
And people will be really, I bet they'll show.
Yeah, so, if that's the thing, sometime maybe in January, if we can get a public hearing set up.
Public meeting more than maybe a public hearing.
Yes.
Hearings generally are held.
Or a public-
Before the board is considering taking a particular action.
Well, we aren't
You
really
really
looking at
wanna
maybe
hear
taking an
from-
action, I guess.
So like we did with the trail, we weren't
Yeah.
allowed to call out a public hearing, but we just got everybody
meeting.
together and
Public meeting.
public.
So I'd like to
Forum?
set up a
Sure.
public meeting, and I don't know if we'd have it on a formal day, or if we do it
Probably
separately.
formal day.
Do it on a formal day, you can do it on a different day, as long as the notices go out, folks have an opportunity.
Okay,
to be aware of it.
why don't we have Ken and Laura
Could
look
do
at
it in the
something,
evening.
maybe on a formal day on sometime in January, latter part of January,
Latter part, yeah.
where we can have one.
Well, we'll let Ken and Justin look
You don't want to? You don't want to go?
at it.
You know what
Of course.
I would like, at some point, I think would be instructive for all the commissioners, is to get a real sense of what everybody does. In other words, what does the administrator do? And really get in the weeds so we see what an administrator does. Maybe before Laura leaves, maybe before
I'm
county
still
council.
downloading, so.
And Justin, in terms of the whole, the whole area of responsibility that
Mhm.
is now going to be, so I think it's good for us to understand it so we know the breadth of it. I would love that to be sort of something that we all kind of And then also county council, I think.
Well, yeah, and each time
He
the
does
commissioner
something.
takes office, and we'll prepare it for the incoming commissioner as well, we provide sort of a 101 on what our office does, and
Oh,
and I'm
okay.
happy to recirculate that document, and if that doesn't go deep enough, certainly I can discuss
What-
any of those
Yeah.
other issues with you and get as deep as you want to get.
I have the talking stick now.
Whoa, Lori, you trained him well.
I can
Look
try to
at the flow
get
chart.
me to it. No, but, you know, because county administrator, because we are going through this transition and we have made some changes because historically, county administrator, deputy county administrator, and we've made some changes, and so I'm more than happy to put something together. I already have something put together that I can provide to the board, you know, that I think you know, how my position evolved in the time that I was holding it, you know, it's a different position than when Chuck was the deputy county administrator. And the position that Justin's currently holding, I think more accurately reflects some of the type of the work that I was doing. And so it's pretty straightforward, and, you know, I can get that information put together. I already have it together, you know, in some format. I had to have that idea when we went out for the recruitment. So, you know, and I'd be more than happy to share that, you know, because
So we're all here. to
as
say
the
thank
business
you.
services director, it more reflects Justin is overseeing the internal business services and those divisions within admin that keep us going day to day, and then that allows the county administrator concentrate on efforts and working with the commissioners and working with the department heads.
And I think
So-
historically, it'd be good to know how this position came about and what we had before and why the commissioners felt it
History of it.
necessary
Absolutely.
to bring you guys into being.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting, Mary, you say that, because I was talking to Mackenzie Farrell, one of the biggest comments they've gotten so far, and people that filled out the questionnaire, you know, on the OC conference, is, and I was one of the ones that made the comment, but I wasn't the only commissioner, that they'd like something done with the conference, so when the county administrators have their meeting and the county assessors have their meeting, arrange a conference somehow where, like, a lot of the commissioners can go sit on a presentation part of the administrators meeting, could go sit at part of the assessors meeting, or where the assessors group and the administrators group could come in to the conference and actually give presentations on what administrators typically do, what assessors typically do, because there's, over the last 2 election cycles now, there's, 63 new commissioners. And so, you know, it's a good question. For those that have been there a long time, it's good to get an update too, so.
And I know I kind of snuck into some of the administrator sessions and county council sessions because it was stuff that
Mhm.
it was more interesting than stuff we've heard for the last however many conferences, but it was really interesting stuff. So, okay. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the order that they want to share? Anything else? All right, well then we'll go ahead and adjourn today's meeting. It's 2:22. Thank you.